This is part 2 of installing the Apache web server, and this part 2 includes installation of PHP. So the first video that I had was here, and I'll put a link to it. This will bring you to another YouTube video on how to install Apache. Okay, so make sure you visit that first of all. This one is going to be on PHP. So let's go ahead and start. The first thing to verify is that we have the Apache web server running, and go ahead and stop it. If you need to do that through the command line, then you can just do change directory to your Apache bin directory, and then do httpd.exe and then -k stop. Okay, so it'll stop the web servers. You need to be as an administrator, so you can see the top left hand corner, that's an administrator for the command prompt. If you need to get that, this is just a normal one if you do cmd, but if you do cmd and then you right click it, then you can run as an administrator. So you'll need to do that if you want to start or stop the Apache service. Okay, so we've stopped it because we want to go in and now download some files for PHP. PHP download. Okay, so I'm going to go to downloads here, and I have my current stable releases, and what I want to do is come down here to okay, so I have some Windows downloads, so there you'll see some of the ones for Linux. This is going to be for Windows, and so just go to Windows downloads right there, and you can either get the non-thread safe or the thread safe. There's some instructions there on if you're using a fast CGI or not. You should use one or the other. Okay, so you can use either one here. I'm going to go ahead and get the 64-bit, the well, actually I'll get the thread safe one. There's a zip right there, and I'll go ahead and download it. Okay, so it's going to go ahead and save, and it'll download that to my downloads directory. Okay, so when it's ready, it'll be right there. It's going to, just as an overview of the previous video that I showed, don't forget to install the Microsoft C++ redistributable, and then you'll get the HTTPD. In that one, I installed here to Apache 2.4, and here's your the root directory for your htdocs. We did change a little bit, or we're going to change this httpd.config. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that one. I'm going to edit that with Notepad++. This is just the configuration file for the web service, and so we need to tell it that that PHP is going to be there. And so I'm going to go down to the bottom and just add some things here. I'll just load module, and what I'm going to do is load the PHP7 module. So go ahead and just type it exactly like you see it here, and then we'll do we have C drive PHP7, and then we'll have PHP7 Apache 2.4.dll. I'll show you where that file is located, and then we also need to do a PHP ini directory. Okay, this is the where it's going to get the initialization for PHP when it starts up, and so I'm going to put PHP7. So I'm going to create a new folder, PHP7, and that's where I'll store everything. The other thing that we need to do is tell it to search for PHP files and then execute those appropriately. And so I'm going to look for file, do a file match. Okay, and then just end here, and I'll do, and I forgot the S here, files match. Okay, there it is. Okay, and then I want to do a set handler and application x httpd PHP. Okay, so that tells it if you find a .php file, then go ahead and use this new program, this PHP program to execute it. And we're putting this into the Apache configuration file. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save that. And then let me come back to my, okay, so those downloaded, let me come back to my downloads, and I have my PHP right here. I'll go ahead and extract that. Go ahead and extract it anywhere you like. We're going to go ahead and copy it to our C drive under the PHP7 folder. So I can, okay, so that is almost done. You have to wait for it to finish. This one's just completing. Okay, so it's extracting some of those DLLs, and it'll show you some of these files. So the first thing that we needed to basically tell Apache about was this DLL file right here, the PHP7 Apache 2.4 DLL. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just go ahead and copy. I'm going to go ahead and copy this whole directory. Just do Control-C, and then go ahead and put it in your C drive, and then rename it. Once it copies over, just go ahead and rename it as PHP7. That whole folder, just rename it. Okay, it's almost done. And okay, I'll wait for that to finish. There it goes. Okay, so PHP7, but you could leave it as that as long as you change your other names in the Apache configuration file. Okay, so I have I have this added, these a few lines added to the HTTP configuration. Okay, now what I'm going to do is go ahead and just try to start this again, and we'll just see if it works. Okay, so let's see if it started. Okay, so it did start. One thing to do, actually let me go ahead and stop it again. I'm going to stop it this way through my Apache Monitor program. Okay, I'm going to come in here to in here, and I'm going to copy this php.ini file. And you can do either development or production. I'm going to go ahead and do the production one, and then just rename this to php.ini. And one of the things I do with some of the software I write is I need to just change, some of the options like max execution time. So I do some real unique programs with optimization, and so max. Let me just keep searching for max. Okay, so max execution time, sometimes the problems are really big and it runs for a long time. So don't do this normally if you're running a public web server, but if you know what you're doing, and you can install, or you can change some of these default options that are there. So for this example, I can run, set some timeout limits so my PHP scripts won't terminate after a certain amount of time. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close this php.ini, and then also the http.config file. Okay, and let's go back in here and see if it was going to start for us. Okay, let's see. I'm going to go ahead and start it this way instead. Okay, so it's running right now. I can come back into my 127.0.0.1. That's my local installed. Okay, so there's it works. Now what I want to do is just test a PHP file in there. Go ahead and run a PHP file and just okay, so I'll go ahead and just create a new text document. For example, I'll just get my IP address .php. Okay, so I'll write a first PHP script, and I'll edit that as well. And to do that, just start it with PHP. Oh, there's an autofill there. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and end it with that, and then I can put in some values. IP, I'm going to say that equals server, and I'll get my remote address. Okay, so that's going to be the IP address. Don't forget to terminate with a semicolon, and then I'll just echo and trim that IP address. Okay, so now I've written just a very simple PHP script that just returns my IP address. So let me come here and I'll do ip.php. Okay, it looks like something is not working. Okay, I'm going to try this. Localhost instead. Okay, so it did run something here. Let's go ahead and try that again. Okay, so it looks like it did return the IP address. Okay, you can test. I've got an equivalent one here. Just get your IP address. So there's my external IP address right there. It looks like my internal one is just listed there. Okay. Anyway, so it is working, the PHP script. Let me just try one other one here. I'll just do index.php. I'll show you how to add if you want to make your main page and the index page. And then I'll come here and it's probably okay, so there it just has index of. Okay. And what I need to do is allow Apache to know that index.php can also be one of my index pages. And so what I need to do is then go back into configuration, edit my configuration file, and let me just search for htm.htm. Okay, let's see if I can find next. Okay, then just add index.php, and that's in my directory index. I'm going to set index.html is if I just leave off the slash name of my page, then it can default to index.php as well. Let me go ahead and just restart this because or I can do it this way as well. Okay, and then if I hit enter, then it's just going to be, it works because now it's going to run the PHP script and interpret it. Okay, I didn't put any PHP code in there, but it did run it correctly this time. Okay, so these are instructions on how to install PHP with Apache on Windows 10.